Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new edition of Q&A by Tecla. My name is Maria Jose Calle, or Majo, and I'm happy to be your host in this section of Tecla. Remember that we do this to share a lot of valuable information about technology, career growth, remote work, and all that things that are super interesting and useful for you guys. I want to thank all of our viewers that are already here. Remember that we would love to know more about you, so please feel free to let us know from which country you are in the comment section. And also, don't be shy if you have any questions or comments during the event. Please feel free to type it down as well in the comment section. Well, we all know that working in the technology industry, it's pretty challenging, right? So there is a lot of things that are constantly happening, a lot of changes. But if we have the right strategies, we can thrive. So today we have an amazing guest that actually works at LinkedIn, and she's gonna be speaking with us about her experience, her knowledge, and we're gonna be chatting about how to improve our careers by the right use of LinkedIn and how to thrive in a fast-paced environment. So without further ado, I would love to introduce to Marisol Greco, which is our guest for today. Hi, Marisol. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. It's so good to have you here. Like, it's pretty exciting. We were speaking about your experience before we went into the event. And I was telling you how inspiring it is for me as a girl in tech. And also, I'm pretty sure for all of our audience here that are actually from Latin America to see someone like you working at a big corporation like LinkedIn and also in Silicon Valley, right? But please, for all of us, I would love for you to tell us about your experience, your history. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you again for having me here, Marco. I'm super excited to share a little bit of my personal professional experience with you and the audience. So, to give you a little background about myself, I was born and raised in Mexico in Hermosillo, which is north part of Mexico. And right after high school, I got an opportunity from the government on my state, Sonora, to get a scholarship from the border state, Arizona, in the US to attend a 4-year degree there. So I went ahead and studied marketing as my major. And, I was, the very first time, number one, speaking 100% in English to go to college and starting to make all of these friendships and connections, very insecure, like very worried about my pronunciation. Because one thing is when you're in Mexico just talking in English, more
Yeah.
conversational, versus when you have to like actually write papers and do homework and really being on, this professional, starting your professional career, right? When you're in college. So right after college, I made a pretty good connection through the career center at the university for the business college, that they were posting all of these jobs all over the US, to see if any of the recent graduates wanted to apply for those positions. So I apply. I remember spending like days just sending my resume. Back in the day,
Mhm.
there was no
Yeah.
platforms such
No
as LinkedIn,
responses.
like to go ahead and apply. I would just go to websites of different companies and just apply directly or through the career site that we have at college. And I came across this company in California that was seeking for someone bilingual that could help with their inside sales growth of their business in the California region or as a state. So it was a really quick, kind of decision that right after graduation, I start my conversation with the recruiter, then the employer of this company. And it was for inside sales in a cabinet door company. So not tech
Oh,
related
okay.
at all. But my journey started there, just trying to put myself out there. And I was able to get a work visa at that time, and make the switch from being in Arizona as a student to immediately going into a full-time job in California.
Wow, wow, that's super impressive. And it's also curious that you just started your work directly working in the US, right?
Yeah.
There was like you didn't have the chance to work for a local company before.
No.
So Did you ever imagine, like when you were studying in the university, that you wanted to be working for a tech company? Or I don't know, maybe did you ever wonder that you wanted to be maybe in Silicon Valley, or it just happened?
Not at that point. This is like, oh my goodness, this is like over 15 years ago. Google, Facebook, all of those tech companies, bigger ones that we know right now, they were just
Okay.
starting. So I was still a member on that side, but I was not even thinking about working and creating that because I saw those companies in in the Silicon Valley as very technical, and I only had a business degree. I had a marketing degree. So I thought,
Okay.
well, I'm not an actual software engineer. So I don't know how I will fit in that. But obviously that changed once I moved here.
Yeah, definitely. And that's also pretty encouraging for the people here watching us that perhaps they are not into tech yet. They are not starting in that field, but they are wondering, how can I actually do that transition and start
Mhm.
working at tech, right? So you started in a sales position for, was it Dell, if I'm not mistaken?
The first technical job, yes, right after working on, that cabinet door company, as I mentioned, that was my first step into from Arizona to California. After 5 years of doing inside sales, I got the experience that I needed, just like with normal, lead generation and just outbound calling for all of our clients in sales. And I moved into inside sales at Dell, and that was my very first introduction into, again, tech company here. And Dell, it's a giant company for computers.
Yeah,
Everyone
definitely.
knows Dell. I was so excited. The offices here in California were absolutely gorgeous, as I've never seen anything like that, with a whole cafeteria. The culture in tech here, it is crazy. It's ridiculous. It's like they're almost competing with each other to see who has the
Yeah.
best experience for their employees. So Dell was a really great introduction for tech.
Okay, great. So I would like to ask, a part of being bilingual and having that great skill, what do you think it was the thing that helped you land that job and escalate that through your whole career? What is the quality that you perhaps feel like it was super important on that path?
I think that number one for me was networking. I did not know, I didn't have personal connections in California. Everyone that I knew was through a professional connection. It was
Okay.
a coworker or a friend, or just trying to go to different events, like anything career related, summits, leadership summits. So anything that could put me in pretty much creating my professional brand at
Yeah.
that young age, because I did not know anyone. So it's not like I could just go and say that, hey, do you have a friend of a friend or a cousin or someone?
Yeah.
The way that we
Definitely.
will do it in Mexico, right? Like in my home country, like I would just go and ask for referrals. But here I had to network, which, even saying the word networking, it's crazy because I never used the word networking prior to being in tech. But in tech, that's how you pretty much build your career, networking, attending
Yeah.
different events, putting yourself out there. And at that point, LinkedIn starting to be a huge factor into my networking, since I was doing everything, online.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm really glad that you mentioned the word, I mean, networking. It's something that we all hear, right? As a recruiter,
Mhm.
it's something that we always advise people to do. You have to have a good LinkedIn profile, but you actually have to reach out to people,
Yeah.
build your personal brand. But that's easier said than done. So we went through the pandemic and we had to
Mhm.
start using all these online tools, build our digital presence. But I would be very interested in knowing, what do you think about doing this, mainly working in tech and doing it in a digital way? I mean, some people, they perhaps don't have the chance to attend a physical event, right? But how can they do this using LinkedIn in a very organic way?
Yes, no, absolutely. Even today's event, we have the opportunity to do this all virtually. I don't think that that was as mainstream or as common before the
Mhm.
pandemic. Everyone just wanted to be there in person. But I
Yeah.
think that the opportunity that the virtual world is bringing is the connection that we can have with people all over the world, which that is really, really wonderful. Even today, we're
Yeah,
in
it
two
is.
different countries and we're able to learn from each other. And having that, I guess like curiosity to just learn from someone that it's not in your same city, not in your same circle of friends, of coworkers. That is what, it's kind of being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Sometimes it really helps in the virtual world, and it really opens the doors to opportunities that you will normally not have if you are just in your city, or your state, in your country.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very good advice for everyone that is watching us right now. Guys, if you are here and maybe have any questions, please feel free to type them in the comment section and we'll discuss it with Marisol here. As an IT recruiter, Marisol, I use LinkedIn Recruiter all the time to connect with people, to reach out to them, right? But it can be a bit complicated sometimes to
Mhm.
put yourself in a good position if you don't have the right experience of, or if you're just starting. So what is the number one tip, or maybe the two tips that you give to everyone that they really need to start implementing on their LinkedIn profiles to grow their careers?
I love this question because I do work for LinkedIn, but I'm 100% drinking the Kool-Aid as far as understanding the value of having a LinkedIn
Yeah.
profile and how it will, give you that presence or that professional presence into all different kind of networks and industries. So with number one, starting with your LinkedIn profile, creating that profile, adding your photo, a professional photo
Yeah.
to your LinkedIn profile, it's just warm welcome to, oh, this is who I am, right? And having that description on, your title, you can just add what is your normal title or where you're seeking to become. Like, what if you are seeking for, I don't know, like I want to do some kind of volunteering job, or I'm really passionate about singing or sports or anything that it's what you're, searching on your next play. We call it here at LinkedIn, like, or what you're currently doing and you're very passionate
Yeah.
about. So I think that having your LinkedIn photo describing what is your passion or your purpose of having that connection with someone through your LinkedIn profile, it's the first door to, having a successful profile. It's not an actual like resume or curriculum when you list
Yeah.
all of your experience. This is the opportunity for you to put your voice in there, your unique self, and
Bring that.
describe
Yeah.
what you've done. It doesn't matter if you don't have let's see, if you're just graduating from college, you haven't had a lot of your real job experiences. What about some of the projects that you're really proud of? Maybe that's what you can mention. You can add, now the LinkedIn profile allows you to add different either content with video or PowerPoint presentations, any kind of slides. So I think that really benefits, depending on, what if you're a photographer and you just want to showcase a little bit of the work that you have, or anything that you are currently working on that it's an inspiration to your next project. Having those descriptions in there under the work experience, it's really relevant, again, for someone that has a ton of experience in a particular area, or for someone that is just building their career.
Yeah, definitely. And I do have to emphasize on that because we recruiters, like, we see a lot of profiles on a daily basis, right?
I bet,
But
yeah.
it's ridiculous. And we spend like 5 seconds in each one sometimes. But it's always great to see someone that it's probably super young and they are not very qualified on the technical side. But it's pretty obvious that they are very passionate about what they do. Like, they are very
Hmm.
creative and they manage to just transmit that soft skill into their
Yes.
profiles. I believe that, as you said, the curriculum is one thing that is more like to put your professional experience and all that,
Hmm.
but we don't have to be super impersonal in our LinkedIn. Like, it's the opposite way,
Exactly.
to shine, like, let your personality shine. So though I love those tips. So guys, if you are listening here, don't forget to add your LinkedIn picture. I see a lot of people that do not do this, and
Hmm.
I mean, you can get away with not putting your photo on your CV, but I think it's great and it's very necessary to have it on your LinkedIn profile. So,
Absolutely.
Marisol, I also was reading about Ola and the things that you do there. Like,
Mhm.
it's like a great initiative to help people in Latin America get better opportunities. But is this just in general, or it's specifically for people in tech? How does it work?
This is a, for our internal employees at LinkedIn. So we call it the Employee Resource Group. And we give the opportunity to the employees at LinkedIn, and different companies call it different ways. But the general idea is that we create these groups to help you as an employee find some kind of commonality with other employees. So the one that I am a part of, or that I belong at LinkedIn, it's called Ola, which is Hispanics and Latinos of LinkedIn Alliance. And we seek to create, that economic opportunity for all of the Hispanics and the Latinos that are part of LinkedIn. And you don't have to be first generation, just as me coming from Mexico, or that your parents are from some country of Latin America. What about if your spouse? Now we're
Yeah.
seeing it more and more, that you want to raise your kids bilingual or multicultural families, right? So we do have different employee resources group, but the one that obviously I feel very passionate and I support is Ola, since I am Latina.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. We have a lot of people from different countries here. I'm from Peru. We have people from Argentina, Mexico, Colombia.
Hmm.
And it seems like the new American dream is to be working remotely, or, well, you
Hmm.
have the chance to be actually there. But we all like to think about, we think about Tekla as a bridge between people from Latin America in the tech industry in great companies in the US. So I'm sure they all want to improve their skills in order to
Hmm.
land these opportunities that can be life changing, right? So let's say that you would be speaking to your younger self, like maybe 15 years previous to this. What would you say? What would you tell her, or what would be your advice to her? Kind of a cliche question, but I just would love to hear about it.
When I was younger, the technology and, the ability to connect wasn't there as far as it is now. Like how easy it is that I can just talk to someone in Peru, like yourself, in Argentina, like
Yeah.
there was no easy way. Like you will send an email, but good luck trying to get a response on that, or going to a company site, like a website. I used to apply to big companies. I remember applying to Kellogg's, Walmart. I wanted to work for larger companies that were international, and I just couldn't because I was still, a student in Arizona, and I just didn't have that potential. Now, something that if I was a younger person, or something that I could tell back in the day, just try to get out of the mold and be
Yeah.
really, really brave about making those decisions, especially now that we have LinkedIn. Just send a LinkedIn message to that person
Yeah.
that you're following, that you see that, oh my God, I wish that I had this job on TikTok. Like, how is it possible that Airbnb has, offices all over Mexico City or Argentina or Spain? Can I go to work to Spain? I didn't know that that was even a possibility.
Yeah,
I was
definitely.
very shy about reaching out. But you know what? Now there is nothing wrong with sending that professional message, or either by LinkedIn or an email. I think that that's the way to put yourself out there, to connect with people. The worst that can happen is that they don't reply to your message, or they just say, like, oh, we don't have an opportunity right now for you.
Yes, I mean, you already have the no, right? So you might as well go and try it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that we are, like, most of us may be a little stuck on that, and that self-consciousness, that
Yeah.
shyness,
Imposter
and that
syndrome. Hmm.
closes a lot of doors for us. So now you don't even have to face the person, like, physically. You just have to
Yeah.
send out a message, and then what's the worst thing that can happen, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, if you are early in your career, two things basically: have a good LinkedIn profile and don't be afraid to network and ask for
Hmm.
connections. That can definitely reduce the time that can get you to be at a great company, right? So
Mhm.
it is always great to have that in mind. So now, Marisol, I know that you went, I mean, you told us that you didn't have in mind to be working at LinkedIn or in
No.
Silicon Valley. So that's something that sometimes people can see that as something that is super, I don't know, impossible to reach or something like that. But it just happens when you put the work and you put yourself out there, right?
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure that was a very dynamic and fast-paced environment. How did you
Yes.
manage to success there?
That's a great question for anyone experiencing those changes within their job descriptions and responsibilities, but also the product that you are supporting, the service. Anything that it's an online service, such as
Yeah.
LinkedIn or some of these tech companies, the products are changing so fast. Why? Because the people, the needs, the way that we use the user interface changes. So we have to adapt as as employees, as a person. You need to constantly be learning and have that curiosity to keep learning something new. Either if it's a new soft skill, as you mentioned before, there's a lot of soft skills that we need to learn, or if there's a new product, a new software that you need to use to implement, for a launch as a new service, or how are you going to manage a project. I had no idea about like how to manage a project, how to like even have a good relationship with my stakeholders in the past.
Yeah.
I was like, what? I don't know. I just kind of like learn on the go. But now, there's a lot of things that you can do online or within your own university, community colleges, anywhere that you can just get that additional piece of education outside of your career. Right. So I think
Mm.
that constantly learning and being curious about what's next, what's out there, there's always, I feel like when I went to college, you go for like business, you're a doctor, you're going to just have a very specific engineering degree. But then you go to the real world, and the breakout of the all the different positions available within an organization, it's massive. You can just be someone that is going to be responsible for the chat support, or you're going to be
Yeah.
someone that is responsible for designing the content or what it looks like on a particular website, right? So there's a lot
Yeah.
of things that you can do after you continue, or as a continual education.
Definitely. And I mean, some people just see themselves like, okay, I need to be a software engineer or be working directly with these web applications or something like that.
Hmm.
But as you mentioned, there are a lot of areas. You can be in human resources,
Yeah.
sales, I don't know, any kind of, there's a lot of possibilities there. But so you were basically focusing yourself in your soft skills and
Hmm.
building the right skill set to succeed at your job, right? But did you take any specific courses, certifications, something like that, to get there, or how was it in that aspect?
Yes, I've been very fortunate that the companies that I work for, in the tech industry, they provide employees with training. So they are training their employees as they know they're going to be frontline, basically, either working with our clients, working with the members, or internally with their partners. So they are constantly training their employees, and I've been, very much either now I'm the one creating and curating those trainings for our employees at LinkedIn, or I am the one that it's attending all of those sessions. As I said, you can be in one job for a year, 2, 4 years, but what makes you better, it's what you bring to the table with those soft skills. What's new that you're learning on a new product, or if there's anything that you need to pretty much bring your team up to speed to be better at what they're doing.
Well, that's a pretty good advice, actually. And I'm very curious about the, I mean, now that you work at LinkedIn, how was it, I mean, entering this huge company and working with so many different people? um, what's the challenge that you face there working in this position?
It was very overwhelming. Number one, I was always so, and I'm still self-conscious of the way that I speak English because my first language is Spanish. So
Yeah.
I felt sometimes that I was pretending, and I was trying so hard that at some point I was not being myself. I was pretending to be the American version of myself.
Oh, okay, okay.
And once I started being more comfortable and confident with, you know what? Yeah, I am from Mexico and I do have an accent, and I am going to learn the product and the services because I'm smart and I want to. I have the passion to do it.
Yes,
We are
I love
all
that.
here to learn. So, and I think that people were really happy when they saw me as Marisol instead of just trying to pretend who am I, how am I going to fit in? Once I started
Okay.
letting myself, be more open and vulnerable and even accepting, that, yeah, I don't have the background in technology, but tell me more. That is always something that I feel it's like my saying, like tell me more. I rather ask questions than being quiet and just trying to figure things on my own. The sense of community and just trying to, always, again, putting yourself out there and just feeling confident that out of all of the questions you ask, you're going to be able to, learn from someone else's experience or learn together something new.
Yeah, I mean, I really love that. I really love that you mentioned embracing your flaws and being
Mhm.
vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure like a lot of people here, they might be second guessing themselves because of the English. Like they want to be
Oh,
like,
yes.
okay,
All the
we
time.
need to have perfect English, but that's probably not the case, right? I mean, as long as you are a capable person, open to learn, you are have
Absolutely.
a great personality. That's not a stopper or a blocker for you,
And
right?
Majo, something that I forgot to mention when I started working at Dell and also at LinkedIn, these are global companies. So
Yeah,
I
for
felt
sure.
like, you know what? There's not only people from Latin America, there's people from Europe, from all other continents too. So it was just very comfortable to see people with similar background that they were all trying really hard to learn and be the best that they could possibly be regardless of their background and their accents. And we found the common goal in being successful at our jobs.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's good that we even have these like spaces, virtual spaces. I like
Hmm.
this idea behind the Q&As because we interview people and they are very like they inspire our viewers, right?
Hmm.
And it's like you have probably a goal that you think it's impossible for you, but once you see someone with a similar background to yours succeeding there, you start to change your mindset, right? You start to think, okay, why can I be doing the same thing? It's a
Yeah.
possibility. And then you just start putting yourself out there. I really love that. So Marisol, we have a question here from Juan, and she is asking this. In your experience, what are the advantages of having a diverse team, and why do you think Silicon Valley companies are looking for talent in Latam?
Great question, Juan Andres. I putting myself out there since I was hired for bilingual support when I started at LinkedIn. LinkedIn as a company globally, they were growing their business in Latin America. So they obviously had more users, more members, more clients that were speaking Spanish. Yes, we can have everything in English, our conversation, but how do you feel that it's more personal interaction, especially when it's not like in person interaction? You're just using a website to, pretty much provide that service. So LinkedIn and a lot of companies, obviously, this is not a secret, right? As they're growing
Yeah.
their businesses in Latin America, they want to have the sense of, I understand, what are the needs from your market. So let me put someone in your support, in the sales team, in the marketing team, in our HR team that can relate to that type of experience. So we see the success in that, right? Like if you're all of a sudden like reaching out to LinkedIn and you start in English, like trying to translate all of my questions, but it's like, hey, hola, soy Marisol, ¿cómo te puedo ayudar? my clients in Argentina, when I used to support Latin America, was like, Marisol, ¿hablas español? Yo, sí, sí, sí,
I
hablo
love
español.
that.
So immediately you can even let the professional side of it go and let me tell you what I need. Let's get into the solving mode. So companies are seeing that from the designing of their products or their websites or whatever it is the service to supporting them to make them successful and selling it, right? Making sure that it's like the whole circle.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a great point. Also, there are no limitations right now, right? You don't have to think like, okay, no one, there is no company wanting to work with me. You have to change your mindset, even like to think, okay, right now we live in a global world. Like I
Mm-hmm.
can access anyone on LinkedIn, I can reach out to anyone. There are a lot of tools to improve your skills. Like even if you are not already in that level, there are a lot of tools
Correct.
on the internet to learn, right? If you recognize that you need to improve your English skills or your
Yeah.
communication skills, you can go and YouTube, I don't know, we have
Yeah.
free resources to learn that. And once you are not even ready, but even just ready to do the first step, you can just start searching, and I'm pretty sure something will appear. So we have a new question here, and it's from Carlos. Thank you for asking, Carlos. How was the cultural shock with your first teams?
Ah, Carlos, I used to go to lunch by myself.
Oh
I'm like, I
no.
don't even know how to interact, like it was so awkward the first few days. And I had a mentor when I was onboarding into my team and learning the product, right? So my mentor reached out to me and was like, so it's a thing. He was like, it's a recurrence. Like I've noticed you always say like, oh, I'm just gonna stay here and work a little bit more and I'll take lunch later when everyone was going. I don't know why I was doing that. I was just
Oh, I
very
know.
uncomfortable, I guess, like to all of a sudden like go and start eating. Number one, I in being in tech, everyone had a cafeteria in the office. So I was not used to like eating in the office, which is so random, but I will usually go outside for my lunch break and either like eat in my car, eat at a fast food restaurant, whatever it is. So all of a sudden when I start working in tech, this cafeterias and it was just different, right? Then
Yeah.
trying to that's just like for the social aspect of it. Then again my mentor reached out to me and slowly he started introducing me. I was like, you don't have to join us for every single lunch every day, but maybe like twice a week, and it started like being slowly but a slow transition into being more open and just less afraid of. I was so afraid of my accent. I was just very
Oh
afraid that they would
no.
not understand me. But
Yeah.
there were, like I said, there's people from all over the world working at those tech companies, or at least at LinkedIn when I started. It was not a thing to have an accent. Everyone was just like, "What? What do you say? Tell me again." I was like, "Oh, oh, oh, you mean like I don't know, right?" They'll ask you the question again, but they mean it in a good way, just like I just didn't understand. But if you tell me, like, we'll help it together. It was not to make fun of you. And as far as with bringing ideas, I was pretty shy to speak up. I, maybe because being from in Latin America, sometimes we are asked to wait for the right opportunity or make sure that you have all of your ideas before you actually share.
Yeah.
I had to learn basically that it's okay to come up with something that it's your thought, your original idea, and share it, or even if there's a way that you can share it with your manager first, and the manager will be like, absolutely, go ahead and share it with the team. I was very afraid, and I'm still like learning through that process. I don't think that I'm still like 100% there, like comfortable with just sharing every single idea, but I think it's part of the cultural shock of, I always felt like I was behind, since I
Yeah.
didn't grow up here. I would understand sometimes some of the reasoning behind their projects, or I just had to ask more questions. But yeah, the first few times or days or months, it was probably rough.
Oh well. Sometimes it's true what they say that we are our own worst enemy, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes it's all
of
in our
course.
mind, and people
Of
is not
course.
Like people is very busy with their own lives, not with time with to judge us. So,
Yes.
and also what a great mentor you had there, that he supported you and helped you out through that.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I love that. We have another question here,
Mhm.
and it's from Veronica, and she's asking, what would you say are the advantages of using LinkedIn as a networking tool, and what are a few advices you could give out to make our pages more professional?
Okay, let's go. So the first one, Veronica, as far as like networking, uh, number one, identify who do you want to network for and what's the purpose. Are you going to attend a conference and you know it's going to be a 3 day conference for so and so? I usually they will provide you with a list of the speakers or they will give you the names of the people that are going to be attending. That's a great way to start connecting, you know, for events or for a particular job that you're interested in. Search for that person. If that person is not on LinkedIn, if they don't have a LinkedIn profile, search for the company. And LinkedIn allows you to start like narrowing down. So you search
Yeah.
for the company, search for the location, search for the function, get more granular with the title, and you start like going into all of the filters. Once you found that person that you're like, you know what, this is a good person that I would like to meet. That's a way of networking through LinkedIn, right? Just like finding from companies or like I said, through an event. You have the flyer of the event or something on your university. You just search for that person on LinkedIn, send a message like excited to meet you. Like I did receive a few messages from people today or 2 days ago when we started like promoting today's call to say like, hey, I'm excited to hear your what you have to share. Thank you so much. They're connecting with them. So that's a
Okay.
way of networking. Then for, you know, your professional page or your profile, I'm sorry, on LinkedIn, as we mentioned, you know, at the start of the call, having your photo, what's the purpose? There's an area now that you can add a summary of why, you know, are you on LinkedIn. So just like to connect with other people or you're searching for a job. Some people are like looking for partners to, you know, get into a new business or what is the purpose of you having a LinkedIn? It doesn't have to be super like elaborate, just few sentences of what you're there. And we even have like areas to put recommendations. So if you work with someone in the past on different projects or attended different seminars, conferences, make sure that they add recommendations why they enjoy working with you or what was the benefit or working with your company and you leading that project. So having that strong profile that it's not just a photo and listing all of your work experiences means
Exactly.
adding your story. What is personal about you that I'm like so interested to learn more from you?
Definitely. And that's actually connected to storytelling, right? Which is
Yes.
also a skill that is often overlooked, but nowadays you have to be a good storyteller, right? Because there is probably a lot of people with the same professional profile as you,
Hmm.
but how do you differentiate yourself from those? And how do you become yourself, right? Through your story. I really love that. And also, there is a question that it's kind of related to that one. Someone is asking, what is the best way to reach out to a hiring manager through LinkedIn? That can be sometimes a little bit tricky to people. Like,
Hmm.
how do I approach this person? What can I say there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I depending on, you know, the company, the role that you are seeking. And Majo, I'm sure that you have some experience with this being a recruiter.
Definitely.
Some recruiters will share their profile openly. There's an option that it will show the job description, and to the right side it says hiring manager or please reach. Are you interested in this job? Please reach out. So that's number one, your first, you know, go to. If you're searching for a job and the job description shows a hiring manager, go ahead and message that person. If there's no one, you know, that it's claiming it's a hiring manager for that posting, I will suggest doing the route of what I just mentioned for Veronica's question. Search for the company, search for the location, search for the job function, and start looking for hiring managers. You might not come up with the correct person for that particular job, but maybe that person will be kind enough to reply, say like, oh, you know what, I'm not hiring for that position, but let me put you in contact with the department that is, or please email us at blah 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 blah. You never know.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great example. I love when people reach out to me and they say, "Hey, how are you doing? I just applied to this position at Tekla, even though I'm not the
Mhm.
like in charge of that client or I'm not seeing that role." But just the fact that someone is taking the time to do that extra step and reach out to someone and just seems more interested in the position, that can give you a huge push in the whole application
Mhm.
process. So I would say I agree with you, and definitely don't be afraid to reach out to someone. It's just a message.
Mhm.
Um, Now going back to kind of what we were speaking about in your experience working as a Latina in a U.S. company, someone is asking here, what's the difference between LATAM or U.S. managers? Like I know that you work for most of your career in the U.S., but what
Mhm.
do you think it is the difference?
I don't have like a personal experience working in Latin America, so I wouldn't be able to give you like the full experience of how it is working with a Latin America manager. However, I have partnered with some Latin American managers in my jobs. What does that mean? That if I'm running a project for something internal, like a new process or a new product launch, anything that we're going to do that I have to reach out to managers in Latin America, it has been number one, very easy when you start your message with Hola Raul, as simple as that, instead of Hello Raul. You can just
Yeah.
be very candid, right? So that easily is like, oh my God, they will reply, do you speak Spanish? Hablo mejor español que inglés. And then you start that way building the relationship with something that you have in common. So again, I don't have an experience with having a manager from Latin America, but I have partnered in different projects with managers in Latin America. And that's how we have like build the first steps for our working relationship. And from there, we can either decide. I always ask, what do you feel more comfortable? I feel more comfortable speaking in Spanish. Do you want me to go through this process or how this project is going to go in Spanish or in English? Because what if we're both like trying and pretending whether, like, yeah, it's the next step or whatever, versus just saying it in Spanish and making it feel more natural.
Yeah, I mean, I think communication is really key, right?
Yeah,
If you start
100%.
to ask and see what works better for the communication with someone. I was very curious, and I'm sure our viewers want to know as well, since most of them are looking to work for a US startup, and most of our opportunities are remote, right? Which makes
Hmm.
communication a little bit more complicated sometimes. But the cultural shock may be real in some cases. So,
Hmm.
how do you think one can improve the relationship if you have a manager in the US? Because
Hmm.
there is a cultural difference. Even with the emails, communications, we
Yes.
tend to be very enthusiastic, and sometimes it is different. So,
Hmm.
what are your thoughts about it?
Yes, a personally, what I've done, it's trying to go a step further into what are we trying to, get here? What's the goal of the conversation? If it's
Yeah,
someone that is your manager, I will try to schedule a one-on-one where you can spend some time talking about, okay, this is my work productivity, or this is what I'm working on. What do you need from me? What I need from you? And then can we just talk a little bit more about like ourselves? How was your weekend? What are things that
yeah,
you're into? And do you know that I have kids? Oh, the your kids too? Oh, how are they? Oh, I don't have kids, but I love to travel. What's your favorite food? Oh, you know what? I made the dish that you told me the other day that you sent me the recipe. So try to just have a little bit of balance. There's some people that might be like, I don't even want to have like a personal conversation. But you know what?
yeah,
That's good to know too. That way it's not
yeah.
an awkward conversation. That way you know that with that person, you're just going to set up a 30-minute meeting, and it's going to be with an agenda, with items. You're going to check your list, and that is going to be as efficient as a meeting as you want it to, or that conversation. And I have both. I have some, managers, or not even managers, but partners that you work
Okay.
every day with. And you kind of get to know what's the style of communication that they prefer. Some people might say, I just don't need to like see you on camera. every day, but if you send me weekly, like a summary of your project or anything like that, that's all I need. I might reply to you with questions, or then I might just schedule a call if we need to talk. But try to learn what is the communication style of that person. And the best way to learning is to set up that first 30 minute. It's so valid to even ask, thank you so much for your time. I just wanted to set this up to kind of like set the expectations on how you want to be reached out to. Do you prefer email? Do you prefer chat? Shall I just set up like a monthly, meeting, or bi-weekly? What is the cadence that we should be communicating? That is so wonderful. That person is going to appreciate it. That way you're not bombarding them on Teams or a WhatsApp, or, what if they're like, don't send me WhatsApps ever. My family
Yeah.
sends me WhatsApp all the time. Let's just stick to Microsoft Teams or Google Chat, whatever is the professional chat they're using. So great to understand what is the level of communication, channel of communication, and cadence of the communication.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It shouldn't be a problem as long as you know how to communicate properly and set those boundaries, right? As you said,
Yes.
if you don't want to be bothered until a certain hour, or maybe I won't respond to any WhatsApp message. If we're talking about work, it should be through
Hmm.
Slack or Meets or something like that. And so for anyone that it's actually wanting to work with someone, with some companies in the US, just know that it's just a matter of communication. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of kind of people, right? Introverted, extroverted.
Yes.
Some people will love to tell you about their family, their dogs. Some other will just be like, okay, let's do work, and that's it,
Yeah.
and it's okay.
Hmm. It's completely okay.
Yeah, totally. So, Marisol, we are almost reaching the end, but I would love for you to tell us about how do you see the opportunities for Latin American people in the US. I'm pretty sure that you are very used to seeing this in this community, especially since you work with Ola. But how do you see it?
You know, it's interesting because there's two ways, right? You can either just work for a US company or for an American company within your home country, either
Yeah.
virtually or just moving to a different country that there's an actual office. For example, LinkedIn has offices in Brazil and in Mexico City. Are they opportunities to work in one of those countries? I'm not familiar with the work visas. So that's something that you should educate yourself. Like if you are seeking to, employment in a different country, not only the US, for a company as big as LinkedIn, Google, Facebook, that they have offices in other countries, I would just try to do research in advance of what is the work visa looks like. Is that something that the company is going to sponsor me, or do I need to do that process in advance? So that's like number one, right? How am I
Okay.
going to get? I think most of the job descriptions now include at the bottom if there's a work permit requirement, or if they do the sponsorship for you. So that's number one. If you're seeking for either moving into the US or moving to a different country that has a US company location there. And then
Okay.
from there, obviously just try to get familiar with not only the company and what they do, but what is the expectation from you as an employee for that company. Sometimes we have just the title or a description of the job, but are you able to find someone that it's actually doing that job and ask for a shadowing session? Can I just, the job shadow they call it, right? Can I just go ahead and I am applying for this job at LinkedIn and it looks super interesting. It's an account executive in Mexico City, but it's selling talent solutions. I
Okay.
see that you are an account executive for talent solutions in Mexico City, and I'm looking to apply to this job and put the link there, right? Can you tell me more? What does it look like? What is talent solutions? I have no idea.
Definitely.
So just be curious about asking that. Use obviously LinkedIn as a good way to connect and professionally, and get the ball rolling from there. Maybe they can tell you more like, oh, yeah, someone in my team is actually in a work visa. Let me ask them. Maybe they know.
Sure, sure. And the good thing is that these tips can be applied to maybe if you're in the search of a remote position, right? Because that even like that's something that it's very huge right now. When I
Mm-hmm.
interview people, they are all like, I am a digital nomad. I like, this is like something that it's a must for me in all of the jobs that I am
Mm-hmm.
applying, because I want to be able to travel, or
Yep.
maybe go to my country, or maybe go to the US, go back to Latin America. So they are really into this lifestyle. And
Mm-hmm.
it's actually giving a lot of great opportunities for people in Latin America, right? So I think it's great. So how do you feel about it? Do you think like this will be helpful for us to have more representation? I mean, to see more women, especially we are two women speaking about tech. So what do you feel about it?
Jealous, number one. There were not opportunities like this back in the day for me. I wish that I could just work remote and be, you know, just traveling all over the world while keeping my job. But I've seen it now, once we move into the pandemic and now with more remote jobs opportunities, is I've seen it from some of my coworkers, especially the ones that, were younger. Like I have a family, we do have, very established community here. So I don't see myself going anywhere. But for my
Mhm.
peers that have the flexibility to be traveling and still working, how amazing. And it's not for everyone. Not everyone
It's
loves to
not, yeah,
travel and be on the
that
go.
is true.
But for those that are open to it, look for those positions. There's, they always marking it down now as remote, and there's flexibility for do hybrid
Yeah,
work, which is you go to the office. That's something that you can, talk about during your interview process. And Majo, you probably know more of this. It's like, how
yeah,
often do I go to the office? But there's hybrid work and opportunities now. So
definitely.
take advantage of that. If that's your thing, if you want to be traveling and moving and on the go, but keeping your job, definitely like look into it. Maybe you'll do it for a year and then you get tired of like, oh, I'm always packing.
Yeah,
So
that's the thing.
I will love to be able to experiment that. That sounds very exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would love to do that, but I feel like at a certain point I would start to want to go back to my routine. But it's
Hmm.
a great possibility, right?
Yeah.
And constantly, I mean, there are more and more companies that are trying to implement these remote or offshore type of contracts, because they just realize that there is people in Latin America that are just as qualified as people on the
Absolutely.
US or more, right? So if you are here in Latam, we have no limitations right now. If you are trying to reach for a remote position, then you just have to start looking and preparing yourself.
Hmm.
So I totally agree on that. And finally, I would love for you to tell us like your final advice for anyone that it's perhaps like you were a couple of years ago trying to find the right path or to land the right opportunity. What's your advice for us?
It takes time. So definitely be patient, but
Yeah.
spend time on it. Don't feel, I don't think that any of the jobs, I was not someone that was lucky, like to be able to know a lot of people that were to introduce me into the different jobs in my career. Even when I was able to connect with someone, that work at that company, they didn't get me the job. And it's very competitive. So don't get discouraged if you don't get an opportunity for a job position, for a project position, for volunteering at the first time that you try. Just if anything, use that as an experience. I was on the job hunt during the pandemic, and it took me about 2 years or more to land the position that I am right now at the same company. So it's not even
Okay.
going from one company to another. It's even so competitive within the same company. So
Yeah,
you
sure.
just need to be persistent, be patient, and give yourself that time to spend on your professional development. Unfortunately, no one is going to do it for you because you know yourself
That's
better.
right.
You know what you want. You know what are your skills, or you know what you're missing from your skill set to get that to the next level. So definitely sit down and spend time, working on this, even if it's just an hour, 2 hours a week, saying, like, I'm just going to go into what are the hottest tech companies right now? what are the companies that are doing remote job, and do some search. Like, you just do your research into what is the next thing that you want for yourself, because unfortunately it's very competitive and no one else is going to do it for you the way that you want it to be.
Definitely. I love that. And I think that's going to be pretty encouraging for, I mean, all of the people that have been affected by layoffs, which
Yes.
is something that was huge and it's still happening,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's a lot of people that are super qualified, but they just unfortunately got
Mm-hmm.
laid off their jobs. So an extra advice for them, like maybe they are in the limbo right now that they don't know how to do. They think, okay, I'm gonna be in this position of no having no job for a long period of time. How can one stay resilient and keep working when everything seems uncertain, right? What do you recommend?
Seek for short-term goals. um, Anything that you can accomplish within, if you're searching for a job, what about like shorter term goals to get to that job? So I'm already putting a lot of work into a new skill. I'm already putting a lot of work into networks. So just having, either writing it down and say, like, in a month from today, I'm going to complete having 2 conversations with someone that works that in that company. In 6 months from today, I'm going to get a certification. Or even, at LinkedIn, we have LinkedIn Learning, which is a way to get certified in different skills, or just like learn different videos, different articles, anything that you can download to keep your professional development. So we encourage employees to keep learning on their own. So we
Yeah.
just give them the tools, but we cannot pressure you into do it, right? So again, you know that the resources are there, but can you set a goal, a small goal, that way you just feel that you're getting a little bit closer, versus just shooting all the way to, I want that job and I just didn't get it. Why did I do it the rest of the time? So definitely invest in yourself.
Yeah, and also be patient and kind to yourself, right? Because
Yes.
it takes time. It takes
Yeah.
time, but as you said, one has to focus on the things that we can control, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so things that we can control are how we prepare ourselves. Maybe if you take a couple of courses, certifications, if you working a certain skills that you
Mm-hmm.
need to develop, and eventually, if you start looking for the opportunities will come, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's key there. So, well, Marisol, I think we actually got a lot of great information. I'm sure that anyone that it has been listening to this chat has been like taking notes on the LinkedIn and networking tips, and also very inspired by your experience as well. Personally, I am inspired to see a woman from Latin America being successful in the US. So thank you so much for your time. And do you have a LinkedIn, or I think we can put that on
Yes.
the post so they can reach out to you if they want to.
Absolutely. Please feel free to connect with me. If you add a little message of where you're coming from, just add, hey, I listened to your conversation at Tekla. Let's connect. Or, hey, do you have time for a coffee chat? Or anything. That is way more valuable than if you just send a invite, connect.
Yeah,
So let me
definitely.
know how I can help you, and let's connect. I will love to learn more from everyone here. Thank you, Majo, so much for having me.
Thank you, Marisol. And thank you guys for being here in this chat. And we'll see you in the next one, probably next week. So thank you. And until then, bye bye.
Bye.